We can finally see roads and black puddles. This place looks amazing. I just need to find a taxi. This is what the airport looks like. A wrecked car. The logo is covered. There are plastic bags here. Only a car freshener is missing. You know, overall, the place looks great. Broken roads, wrecked cars, and friendly people. Just like in Russia. We are in Russia, Alaska. Friends, I have come to Alaska. Crooked houses, everything is ruined, and there's garbage everywhere. A messy place with abandoned houses. People left and their home has been vandalized. Alaska souvenir shops sell matryoshka dolls from the Khabarovsk region. A matryoshka doll. The size costs $81, and the indigenous people here are Orthodox Christians. They are Orthodox. They follow both their local traditions and Orthodox Christianity. Today we'll find out what Russia and Alaska have in common. We've arrived in Bering, and now we are heading to the hangar. Many laugh at the airports in small towns in Russia. Well, look at this one. Here the passengers get off the plane and go to a literal hangar. We just have to pass through the guards room, and we're home. Finally, we are home. Dirty cars, dirty streets. I can't believe I'm going to spend 24 hours here. The first place I visited was Utqiagvik, formerly known as Bering. It is the northernmost point of the United States. It is the home of the Inuit indigenous people of Alaska. Apparently, Utqiagvik looks like any Russian town in the far north. Even though Russians didn't live here, when Alaska was still part of Russia, but Americans trashed Utqiagvik just like Russians trashed their northern towns. The only thing that makes American North different from Russian North is the quality of transportation. Because in Russia, where everything is dirty, poor, and destroyed, you don't expect to see any good cars here. Cars are usually half destroyed too, but here it's different. There are new pickups, Hummers, and other good cars, all kinds of vehicles. And here the children are driving back home after classes. They ride around on a quad. Cool, isn't it? It seems dangerous, I mean. There are literally 13-year-olds driving through these half-abandoned streets. It looks a bit surreal. So why is Utqiagvik such a mess? Captain Paul Davis explains that indigenous peoples, they have different priorities, different lifestyle. They don't care about trash or dirt.
It's priorities. It's just their priorities are different. You know, they people there kind of it hasn't been very long since they've had like houses made out of wood and vehicles that burn gasoline and stuff. They used to live a much more simple way of life, and so when they're done with whatever they have or it breaks down, they just discard it. But it's hard to get rid of things because it's so isolated. So it's not easy to, like if you have a broken down car, you can't just throw it away. You can't just take it to the dump. So they just kind of leave it sitting there. But it's basically just priorities, you know. It doesn't bother them, and so they just live a different way of life, you know, and a different mentality than maybe you or I.
In general, Russian people in the north of the country treat their towns in a similar way. Most people don't care about forests and streets, full of garbage. They even defend their landfills and get angry with me for criticizing it. If you don't like it here, go away. Mattresses, Garbage. This house is abandoned. I mean, it's boarded up, but in principle, it could have been inhabited. There are abandoned trailers and entire houses. The problem with all those houses is that, for some reason, no one preserves them. Nobody nails the doors shut, no one cleans the garbage, and it's right next to the main street. Some bad things are written here. A broken TV. So people left and their houses were looted. There are even some old family pictures left here, and some other things. Basically, anything that can be stolen was stolen, and the rest was vandalized. As you can see, in this sense, American North is similar to the Russian North. In general, it is still not clear what motivates people to move here. Okay, they say the salaries are high here. The salaries, the bonuses, but the food prices are also high, and there are no services here. No entertainment? I just don't understand what people do here. What do they spend their high salaries on? Suddenly, there is a Georgian flag on the garbage can. I don't know if it has meaning or not, but it is what it is. Someone wrote Jesus on this garbage can. In Russia, they could have been prosecuted for this, for offending the feelings of religious believers. But here, it's fine. Garbage cans are used here for drawings. There is still some local identity preserved here. The globalization that is taking over the whole world, luckily, hasn't reached this place yet. That's why it's so precious. You know that most big cities in America look alike. The same in Europe, and the rest of the world too. All these global brands, rules, values. The same hotels, restaurants, Starbucks, McDonald's, IKEA, everywhere. The same furniture, the same cars. It gets boring. But there are still these unique places. For example, the North, the American North. We get to see wonderful things here, preserved wonders of local nature. Yes, they still hunt whales here, but it's part of their culture. They wear traditional clothes, like in some Russian regions. If we ignore all the garbage that is so common for the northern regions, Russian regions of the north are interesting for their authenticity. People preserve their culture, their traditions, and it's so interesting to witness. Unfortunately, you won't find such things in big cities. With few exceptions. That's why I love to travel to some hidden places in the middle of nowhere and enjoy them, explore local traditions and beauty. Utqiagvik is a city where the indigenous people have been living for more than 1,500 years. They build their houses following old traditions. But hospitals, airports, and post offices are built by the North Slope district. As a result, all government buildings here are well maintained and clean, and houses of the locals look a bit sad. This is a local school. It's quite big, and, as usually, it has an ugly yard. You'll see it everywhere in Barrow. If the buildings are state-owned, if they were built with money from the state or as part of some programs, then they are more or less clean and neat. And if we look at what locals build, we'll see hopelessness and destruction. Look how they store their snowmobiles and cars. They don't even cover them. If not about your snowmobile, at least a little, why not make a simple shed for it so that everyone doesn't burn in the sun in summer or doesn't rust or something? You have to protect everything. The same thing with the cars. If something breaks down, they just leave their car like this, to rust, to rot, and nobody cares. Why can't they take it away from their home? Why don't they set up something like a landfill? The whole place is just covered in junk. In fact, there are deeper ties between Alaska and Russia. It's not just about the appearance of the northern cities of our countries. Alaska was once Russian territory, until it was sold, of course. But in fact, the story of Alaska started much earlier. The first tribes appeared here 10,000 years before Christ. Alaska attracted them with its rich wildlife. Here were whales, deer, and other large animals. But the Europeans did not arrive to Alaska until the 18th century. The first settlement appeared here in 1784. It was Russians who settled in Three Saints Bay. They came to Alaska because of animal skins. After the resource was exhausted, Russians didn't feel like they needed to stay here with the natives, especially since the locals were not exactly happy with the new neighbors. Several times they even attacked the Russian settlements, and it was decided to sell Alaska. But the question was, sell to whom? Not the British. It was dangerous. It was dangerous to have such a serious adversity by your side. Then the Russian Ministry of Finance convinced Americans to buy the land. According to a girl from a local Inupiat village, $7 million was too cheap for Alaska.
And you guys sold Alaska for $7 million? Yeah. That is so cheap.
If the amount was converted to today's currency, it would be equal to $15 billion. By the way, there's a myth that the money for Alaska never reached Russia. It was supposedly sent to St. Petersburg on a ship that sank along the way. But that's a myth. 10,972,238 rubles and 4 kopecks arrived in the capital, and they used them to build 3 railways: Kirsk-Kiev, Ryazan-Kozlov, and Moscow-Ryazan. The U.S. Secretary of State William Seward was the one who agreed to buy this territory. Seward, by the way, was laughed at for this deal. People were in no hurry to move to the permafrost, and there was nothing to take from Alaska. They even called this area Seward's Folly. But now Alaska is considered one of the richer states because of gold, oil, endless forest, and wild animals that are basically inexhaustible sources of wealth. I am now heading to Sitka, a city from where Russians administered the lands of Alaska. Many Alaskan airports showcase the animals that live here, like this stuffed bear right here. This is a baggage reclaim area, and we have a deer here. There's another bear. It's an Alaskan brown bear, and a smaller bear. At the same time, some Alaskan cities still remember their historical ties with Russia. This is baggage claim in Sitka. The carousels are located right below a double-headed eagle. They are not ashamed of their Russian history here. They even have a giant double-headed eagle at Sitka Airport Arrivals Hall. Friends, I have come to Sitka, which was once the capital of Russian America. It was then called Archangels, and it was a center of commerce, art, and diplomacy. The city was even referred to as Paris of the Pacific. Russians opened schools, museums, libraries here, and established Alaska's first lighthouse. When Russia decided to sell Alaska, the transfer ceremony was held right here in Baranof Castle. That's when they took down the Russian flag and raised the American one. Before Russians arrived to Sitka, it was inhabited by the Tlingit people. In 1799, Alexander Baranov, the head of the Russian-American company, came here to carry out expansion. With the permission of the local tribal leaders, he established a fortress city on the banks of a river. But there was still enmity between the Russian and the natives. In 1802, natives destroyed the fortress in another confrontation with Russians. 2 years later, the territory was reconquered. And then the settlement was moved to a more strategic location on a steep stake. It then became known as Archangels. In 1808, it was the main city of Russian America. After the sale of the territory, the city was renamed Sitka. It remained the capital of the state until it was replaced by Juneau in 1906. Today, many tourists come to Sitka to see the remains of Russian history. And of course, there are souvenir shops with matryoshkas here. Now, several cruise ships have arrived in the city, and the center is closed for cars, so that the tourists can spend their money here. Yes, although Sitka is a small city, it is a major tourist center. There are many tourist attractions here, and in general, the city was very important in the history of Alaska. Tourists come here a lot, and now we'll see what they're coming for.
Ключевое значение в истории всей Аляски. Сюда обязательно приезжают туристы, и можно посмотреть, чем их здесь развлекают. Вот,
Here,
например,
for
краб с
example,
крабами.
they
Целый
can
краб
eat
стоит
crabs.
$45.
A whole crab
Она
costs
проехала $45.
$45,
Это, конечно,
but it'll
маленький
probably be a
крабик.
small one.
Значит, огромное
There are so many
количество
souvenir
сувенирных
shops here,
магазинов.
and their
Одна
main
из таких
theme is
главных
Russia.
тем — это Россия.
Look how many matryoshkas here there are, among
Огромное
other
количество
things.
матрешек, всего остального.
Maybe I have finally found a
Возможно,
few
я
economic
наконец-таки
ties that connect our
нашел
countries.
те самые
Matryoshka doll is
мерцающие
one of the most popular
экономические
souvenirs here,
связи и
and the most
такие
interesting
практически
part,
отсутствующие
they are made in
товары.
Russia.
Ну вот
A
один из
matryoshka doll
популярных
this size
сувениров
costs
здесь — это матрешка.
$81.
И что самое интересное, матрешки
A
сделаны в
matryoshka doll
России.
made by Vietka's
Такая матрешка
Souvenirs,
стоит
the city of
$81.
Ninilchik,
Такого
Kirov
размера.
region.
Матрешка — вятский сувенир, город Налинск, Кировской области.
Their matryoshka dolls are on
Если
sale
кто-то
here
в
for
Кировской
$120.
области, знаете, ваши матрешки здесь продаются
Look at it,
$120.
even this one is made in
Такая
Russia.
даже вот
It's
эта
an eagle
сделана в
turned
России,
into a
тоже сделана в
matryoshka.
России, матрешка с орлом. То есть их как-то закупают в России, привозят сюда, и здесь
Somehow,
уже
they are
туристы
brought here from
покупают эти
Russia,
матрешки,
and here
потому что
tourists buy
приезжают,
these matryoshkas because they
в
come to
русскую
Sitka for Russian vibes.
Ну, кстати,
By the way, they
на
don't sell
футболках
t-shirts with Russian
ничего
theme.
связанного с Россией нет.
No t-shirts with Putin on the
Никаких
bear.
Путиных на медведях нет. Значит, внезапно
Suddenly,
Дедушка Мороз
we see
и
Grandfather Frost
русский
and a
рождественский
Russian
магазин.
Christmas store.
Вот довольно забавно, есть
Here they have some pretty funny titles.
New
New Archangel Trading,
Новоархангельская
the New Archangelisk shop.
лавка. Круизные корабли
The cruise
уехали,
ships are gone, and the city is empty again.
город опустел.
But tourists go to Sitka not only for matryoshka dolls, there are some old structures built by the Russians here in the city. To defend against attacks from the locals, Russians built defense towers like this one behind me. They would put weapons and guards there to protect the territory from neighbors. The original ones have not survived. This is only a copy. The second copy, in fact, because the first reproduction was destroyed in 1962. They are doing a good job here. I really like it. It looks cool. Sitka is truly a tourist town now. Tourists come for the Russian history. They go to the church, they look at the historical buildings, at the legacy of Russia, and locals treat Russian history with care. But they have problems here too. For example, in 1929, they installed a monument to Governor Baranov. It was done with private funds. I mean, it was someone's initiative. And then the monument was donated to the city. It didn't really bother anybody. And when the BLM movement started, local indigenous people said Baranov was a conqueror, and the monument was vandalized. They sprayed it with paint, and they broke it. And the authorities had to take the monument to a museum. So yeah, things like this can happen. But in general, if we talk about Russian heritage, they treat it with respect here. I've been to different sites here, and I wish we treated our heritage the same way. It is a town with just a couple thousand people, but it's very lively. The streets are bustling with life. Even when those cruise ships arrive, everything is well organized, clean. There are nice lawns and flowers everywhere. Restaurants, good cars, even in a small town like this, on the edge of the world. There is life thanks to tourism. Now, Sitka has about 9,000 inhabitants. Unlike Utqiagvik, it seems pretty well maintained, even in remote neighborhoods. Look how neat it is. Perfect lawn by every house. Everything is clean, no fences. It's just beautiful. It's just a fabulous tourist town. Look at this path. You are walking in a beautiful nature. You can look at the sea. There's salmon playing in the water. Americans know how to attract tourists. It's true. Even small towns. If there's potential for tourism, most likely they are going to be clean and well maintained. There will be small shops and cute cafes. In Russia, if you come to Moscow, St. Petersburg, you will also have all these things. I wanted to say Baikal, but when I think of what's happening on Baikal, I better not use it as an example. If we look at the small towns in Russia, I'm not talking about the golden ring of Russia. A lot of little towns, especially in remote areas, could be tourist centers, but they are in very bad condition. In America, in all the states I've been to, places with some history always have a museum. Postcards, stickers, clean streets, and overall everything there seems to be perfect. Look, these are the streets of Sitka. Perfect sidewalks, green grass, everything is taken care of. Like in a fairy tale. This is a special protection from the bears. For a bear, it doesn't open like that. You can't go inside if you're a bear. And this one, you have to press here and open it. There's so much salmon jumping out of the water, you can probably catch them with your hands if you want. There are so many of them. They keep jumping out of the water. Look. If I were a bear, I wouldn't even have to bother. I could fish them with my paws. You see, there's a whole pack. The water is teeming with salmon. Even after Alaska became part of the U.S., Russians didn't stop coming here, including those who fled persecution. This is how old believers ended up in Alaska. In the 17th century, the Russian Orthodox Church was divided. Patriarch from Moscow, Nikon, decided to change old rituals. Some believers did not accept the changes and kept following the old tradition. After the old believers rebelled against the reforms, the state began to persecute them. Eventually, they had to flee to other countries. The Old Believers settled in Brazil, Estonia, Australia, and other countries. Over time, some families also came to Alaska. First Old Believer settlements appeared here in 1968. It was in the city of Nikolaevsk. How many people live here in Nikolaevsk? I don't know the exact number. I think about 300 people. 300. And how many of them speak Russian? Maybe 5%. How do you know Russian? Where did you learn it? We had Russians as our first language. My mom only speaks Russian, and we only speak Russian to her. So you learned Russian from your family. When we were born, it was our first language. Where were you born? We were born in Oregon, in Woodburn, Oregon.
Woodburn, Oregon.
And how did you get here? By car. But why here? Why did you decide to come here? We have been here since 1969. I was 3 months old. I was a baby. My mother and my father came here to fish. They're still fishing. They fish in boats here, in the sea. As for the old traditions, do many people follow the rituals? No, not many. Not many? No. And the young people? No. But why? Well, they call themselves Old Believers. Now we live in peace. When the Old Believers came here, they were very private. They did everything on their own. They didn't let their children marry Americans, only with their own people. But then they allowed it, and a lot of mixed marriages happened. So now you can date anybody. There are no restrictions? No. And you can be friends with Americans and people of other beliefs, with Catholics and Muslims? Yes. And no one's going to say anything. And how was it before? They used to be very private. The older generation from Nikolaevsk still speaks Russian. Unlike the young people who wear trendy clothes, speak English, watch TV, and play on their iPads, many young people don't go to church because they don't understand the old Slavonic language. Like that, Nikolaevsk experienced another split. But this time not a religious one, but a split between generations. There is a different division here now because mothers and fathers realize that their children are adults now. They don't understand Russian. They don't speak Russian. They go to church here, and they ask the priest, the one in charge. They depend a lot on his blessing. They want the church to be in English so that children understand everything, for all the services to be held in English. He said, no, that's not going to happen. And a lot of people left. They will build another church, and they will pray in English. It's called division. Welcome to Alaska. We are delighted to have you. Nina Fifilia moved to Alaska from Khabarovsk in 1991. She graduated from university here and met her husband. Now Nina lives in Nikolaevsk and works in the family cafe, Samovar, and tells the guests how old believers live here. Hello. You are a bit late. A bit. Nina is reluctant to talk about herself. She says she came to Alaska thanks to God. How did I get here? God sent me. Where are you from? From Khabarovsk. This is our listovka. This is a prayer rug. When we go to church, we use them to pray. The priest invited me to visit him, and I came here in 1991. On December 29th, before Perestroika. Were you a believer in the Soviet Union? I told you, I was president of the church council. How did you meet your husband? In the church. Here? Yeah. I came here. I met my husband. You started talking to him yourself? Did your parents help you marry him? I lived with the priest. He came here. His children were here. Wait, you lived with the priest? Who arranged the marriage? What? Did you choose your husband yourself? No, why? Did the priest choose him for you? No, he didn't choose a husband for me. No one chooses him for me. You did it yourself? No, I didn't come to get married. I came to visit. Yes, but then you did get married. He is the son of my priest, his second son. I see, that's how you met him. And he had children, 3 children. It was Christmas, and on Christmas Eve we all prayed. Of course, there was a Christmas service. On Christmas Eve, we got to know each other better. We sat at the table together here on Christmas Eve. People go to each other's homes, and Dionisio went everywhere with me. We were always together. I decided to find out how many believers there are here in Nikolaevsk, and how many of them go to church. How many believers in Nikolaevsk go now? Are there many believers in Nikolaevsk now? There are many believers. They follow all the traditions, all the rituals. They do. Everyone who lives here does. 550 people was the population when I arrived here 31 years ago, when I came here. How many are here now? And now there are less than 330. There were 161 students. 3 years ago there were 57, and now there are 30 students. When there will be 10, they'll close the school. It's a shame Russian language is disappearing. It's the most important thing. As for Russian language, I wonder how many people speak Russian. We will only have 3 people who speak pure Russian. A girl who works at the post office, right? Yes, it's Kira, the sister of my Dinosio. Yes, but they speak a dialect. My husband now speaks pure Russian because we have been together for 31 years. He is very intelligent. He learns quickly and starts speaking. But as for English, he said, I'm not going to teach you because you will do it yourself. And I did. It's a pity that the Russian language is disappearing. In the church, we use Church Slavonic. Do people understand it? I wouldn't say so. When parents speak English at home, what can children understand at the church? We need a school for them to learn. The children here can read Slavic, Russian, and English-speaking ones. Russian and English-speaking ones. There are 2 or 3 families speaking Russian at home here. Everyone else speaks English. If you say that young people don't speak Russian, they don't understand it. And they don't go to church. They go, but they don't understand. It's clear they don't understand. They need to understand it. But the Slavic language of our church, of old believers, must be translated for all believers. But if we speak the Nikon language, there is a church in Pennsylvania where all the books and everything is translated. But they are new believers. They have translated the prayer book into English. It helps a lot. We had these books in our church too. But then we found a lot of mistakes, and the priest said we can't use them. We need our own Slavic church to teach our children Russian language, the old Slavic language. But I get it. We don't have so many people in Nikolaevsk.
Прегрешная, что не плачешься.
And Nina has agreed to sing some church songs. Can you sing for us?
Отверзу уста моя и наполнится духа, и слово отрыгну царице матери, и явлюся светло торжествуя, и воспою, радуйся, Твоя чудеса.
I sing well in the choir with Dennis, but I don't sing on my own. There were many people here for Christmas. A lot of people came from Anchorage, from Wassalia, from Kenai, from Soldotna. People live further away there. They come with children, up to 150 people. We have lunches, funerals, weddings. That's how it works. There are not many people in the church, especially now, maybe 40 or 50 people. According to Nina, Russian villages are not so different from American villages, especially if there's a church. In a Russian village with a church, it's not different. People have their celebrations. They dress up for church, they pray, they have fun at Easter, Christmas, after Lent. Now we are fasting for the Dormition, and on the 27th, 28th, 29th, we will pray. People have all these celebrations, and other time they all work. You have to work hard. If you don't work, you don't eat. Where is life easier? It's easier to live here. There are no bars on the windows, no locks at the entrance. That's what kills me. It's very scary to live there. No way people live there. Bars and locks everywhere, from the entrances to the 10th floor. How can you live like this? In a house with so many floors. Here, it's different. In a village, no, it's very calm here. Good for the soul. Fresh air. We have 4 springs of water. Best in Alaska. Dear viewers of this video, I thank you for your attention. I would like you to come to Alaska. It's wonderful here. We fish, we have caviar, and we hunt. Starting from September, we'll hunt. We invite you to come to Alaska. Welcome to Alaska. According to locals, Nikolaevsk is becoming empty. There are no jobs in the town and no colleges for the youth nearby. You've been here in Nikolaevsk for many years. How is the population changing? Are people leaving or coming? They go, people leave, because children finish school here, and they no longer have anything to do. Many go to Anchorage to get a job there. They buy a house and start a family. They go to Wasilla. Do you know where it is, near Anchorage? It's very close. A large group of Russians live there. They buy property, build houses, and live there. They do construction works, start businesses, or something. Those who stay in Nikolaevsk are mainly engaged in fishing and construction. What kind of work do you have here? We are here to fish. What do people do? How do they make money here? Fishing. They sell fish? Yes. Anything else? Constructions. Some go to Safeway. They work in Homer. Whatever job they find, they do it. But the majority come here to fish. They fish in summer and earn money. Before, fishing was better. Now the prices of fish are low. By the way, Nikolaevsk is not the only Old Believers community in Alaska. Old Believers also live in Voznesenka, Razdoli, and the village of Ketchup. The people there are more closed and do not welcome visitors. Despite this, I decided to take a look at those communities. There are actually quite a few Russian settlements here in Alaska, and it shows them in the names. I just reached a town called Voznesenka. They told me that practically everyone in Voznesenka speaks Russian, but no one here will talk to me, because people here are very conservative. They are Old Believers. They don't like journalists. And it's very unlikely they'll talk to me. The first thing that surprises me is that the houses are very tidy, and everything is very well taken care of. Although the road is unpaved, the asphalt ends several miles before the town. Look at the houses and the cars they have here. There are more mountains and glaciers up there. The place is fantastic. They don't have a proper church here, but they have a house of worship. This is the dome, and many cars. There must be a service going on right now. These are the cars of the Old Believers of Alaska. The cars are mid-level, and quads. There are many. Look, and there's a BMW here too. An X5. Cars like this. So people here are not poor. It's a problem to find someone on the street, because American villages are organized a little differently, unlike Russian ones, where houses are built along the road, and the facades face the street. And you can walk down the road and call someone over the fence. But here in the United States, houses are hidden. So to have a chat, you need to enter somebody's property. And that's not very polite here, because there's a sign near each lot, private property. I don't know how the owner will react. He may shoot me, and he'd be right. You don't enter just like that. This is a cemetery. Let's look at the cemetery. This is what a cemetery looks like. Again, look at how clean it is. We see the name Vladimir Vasilyev on the tomb. All the names on the crosses are Russian names. Listen to it. Yerofeev, Petrov, etc. So all the names are in Russian, and the cemetery is very tidy. We are heading to the Amish house, where today's service is held, and that's where people gather, all dressed up. You can see how many people have come here for the celebration. Children look so happy. It's a gated community. That doesn't let anybody in. To share something about their culture, they're not interested in it. They try not to interact with the outside world. They have their own customs, they have their own rules, and guests are not welcome. It's the same as the Old Believers. I mean, people stay at home just like the Amish. When you come to an Amish village, it's amazing. how slow life is there. It's like time stopped there. People walk around dressed in traditional clothes with hats and horse carts. Nobody rides in carts here, but as for traditions, everything is respected. The girls wear dresses. The men also wear shirts with belts. Yes, here they respect traditions. This is the school of the Ascension, and they have walls painted like this. Hello. Do you live here? Yes. Cool. How old are you? 15. Do you go to school here? Yes. I see. I have to go. Okay, have a good day. Well, that's it. Nobody really talks to me. There were a lot of people in the schoolyard. And when I arrived, everyone ran directly to the school. Everyone ran straight to school, and the teacher came out. He turned out not to speak Russian. Probably that's why he was ready to talk to me. Hello. Well, interestingly, the teacher said he doesn't speak Russian, but all the children do.
Значит, не говорите по-русски. Нет, я директор этой школы. Понятно, вообще здесь много кто знает русский? Все ученики. Ученики говорят по-русски. Да.
Well, actually, as soon as I get out of the car, even without the camera, I tried several times. There were people. I thought of talking to them without the camera. But as soon as the car stops, everyone hides in their houses. They lock themselves up. The children run away and nobody speaks to me. It's very similar to Amish villages. The interesting thing is that there is not only private property, but roads. Look, it's a private road. And they even tell you that they're watching you. I have reached the village of Ketchup, and here, unfortunately, there are no street signs. But on the map, they are called Kuzmin Avenue, Ryotov Avenue, Fiflov Avenue, Mitsin Highway, Selska Street, the main street, simply called People's Street. Huge cars, streets are very well maintained. People take great care of their homes. Hard-working people. Wherever you look is beauty. Everything is clean. Everything is pretty. Good equipment everywhere. I have arrived at the village of Ninilchik, another old Alaskan town founded by several Russian families. They came here from Kodiak Island in 1847. It's not a new settlement like Nikolaevsk, for example. It's an old village. And curiously, men who came to Ninilchik were mostly Russian. But their wives, on the other hand, were Creoles from Kodiak and Eskimos. All the inhabitants of the town are, in one degree or another, relatives and descendants by Agrafena Afagnak, a famous woman from here. Some local elders still speak the 19th century Russian dialect, so the residents of Ninilchik use old-fashioned words that in modern Russian are considered archaic. There's also a fun mix of English and Russian in the language of the locals. For example, babichka, which means a baby, or gaznik, which means a gasoline can. You may also hear the word rebabutsky here. Rebabutsky are rubber boots, pronounced with Russian accent. The interesting thing is that tourists keep coming, despite everything, and they keep looking at me like I'm a fool walking around Ninilchik in the rain. What is interesting is that in the 20th century, priests from Russian Empire came here. They even held services in the Church of the Transfiguration of the Lord. At that time, a school was built near the temple. But in 1917, it was closed. The Protestant missionaries demanded that Protestants taught in schools of Alaska. By the way, the elders of Ninilchik say the Russian speech was not welcomed in English-speaking schools. If teachers caught a child speaking Russian, they forced him to wash his mouth with soap. These were terrible customs here. But now no one speaks Russian, at least here. But in other towns, they do. But there's almost nothing left in the town that has something to do with Russia. The Ninilchik church seems to be closed. The town itself is really small, and nothing in the town shows any connection with Russia. There are no signs, nothing. No, you can't enter the church. Although the crosses are Orthodox, all the writings are in English. While Old Believers write in Russian, and everything really is in Russian there. Here everything is in English. In Ninilchik, the Russian language is not so popular anymore. Since the church is on the tourist maps, people really come here just to take pictures with this church. Russians are still moving to Alaska now. Of course, the state attracts them not because of the historical ties with Russia, but because of its beautiful nature and good living conditions. I spoke to a family who moved to Alaska 4 years ago. Nika and Boris now organize tours throughout the state, and in summer they welcome guests to their camp. Where do the tourists come from? The tourists we have now mostly come from US. They're Russian speakers from America. Ah, Russian speakers from America. So do you have bears here? Well, there are some around here. It's a forest, you see. It's possible that if you go out somewhere for a while, you come back and there are no tourists here? Or there's one less than when you left. That's why you have to pay in advance for our camp. That's right, but no, seriously, first of all, we have a dog. No bears will enter a territory where there's a dog. Secondly, we just finished training at a shooting range. It was pretty loud. There's a bus where you can live in the forest. So where's the entrance? This side? Yeah, look, it's actually a bus. A real bus. There are 2 beds. There's room for parents and room for kids. Tell me how you ended up here. I'm really interested to find out. Well, my parents moved here back about 20 years ago. Well, they actually moved here just over 20 years ago. And when we came to visit them once in a while, until, well, we were convinced that we should at least try to apply to move here. And that was it. We really wanted to go to Alaska. Specifically Alaska? Yes, of course. What about some other places? I mean, America's a big country. There's loads of options. We weren't interested in the other places. Hang on, we can answer that question more romantically. We have applied for a family reunion permit. That's right, but actually we've been doing some extreme tourism for a long time. We had all kinds of travel agencies. We have seen a lot of things, all kinds of canyons, mountains, caves, independent mountaineering courses in Georgia, and we ourselves traveled to a lot of the mountains. So at some point, Israel becomes too cramped for us. There were too many people. There's no life there. Well, and at some point we realized that maybe it's time to build a house, plant a tree and that kind of thing. So when the time came, they gave us the green card. And obviously there was no question of where to go. It's just everything here is more real, for us. And what we do, it's the best place in the world. Prices are different here to the rest of the states, right? How much more expensive is life? I mean, okay, there are good and bad aspects. There are taxes. There's no taxes. It's a plus. A lot of cities like Anchorage don't have taxes. Wait, so if I need an Apple laptop, yeah, you can order it and pick it up here without taxes. Wow. But if you're ordering some stuff from Amazon or something like that, chances are that delivery is going to cost more than in other states. The downside is you need some vegetables or fruit. You have to buy it in one of the southern 48 states. These strawberries are amazing. Yes, and these amazing strawberries traveled to us from afar. They probably came all the way from Mexico. It's not that there are no fruits and veggies. It's not enough to feed the whole population. Well, actually, the best story I can tell all the tourists, Alaska is a state where, well, a white man could never feed himself in Alaska. I mean, from the Russian-American country to present day, there's always the problem of white men not having food. If the white people would eat whale oil, fish, and all that, things would be much easier. But because they're not used to it, they always import everything from somewhere else. Once we tried to grow tomatoes for ourselves to eat them. We had 3 tomatoes like that, but at least you get paid dividends. It's a very popular thing in the sense that not a lot of people talk about it. No, it's like that, but it's like, let's say life in Alaska is pretty expensive, so there's no point in going here for the dividends. Yeah, they pay us the northern subsidy. That's a percentage of the oil sales revenue that's invested in the fund. And the revenue is shared among all the Alaskans, and you receive it once a year? Yes.
Вложен в фонд, и вот доход от этого делится между всеми жителями Аляски. И раз в год ты его получаешь. Да, включая младенцев, включая всех.
Including children, including everybody. But you have to live in Alaska at least 9 out of the 12 months of the year. You can't be away for more than 3 months. Then you can get it.
Сколько?
How much? It depends on the price of the oil. Last time it was quite good. How much was it? About 2,000, I think. A little over 2,000. Yes, 2,000 for everyone, per person. Everybody, including little babies, got 2,000. Yes, and in big families where they have about 10 children, the allowances are very good. But it's not like it happens every year. This year it was just over 1,000, I think. So it's just a nice bonus, right? It's not like you can survive on the allowance. Yes, but on the other hand, see that tank there? This red fuel tank, it heats our house. And we've got a diesel cooker heater. Filling it up costs about $4,000 to $5,000 a winter, so it helps us pay for the heating. So it's not extra money. That said, according to Boris and Nika, living in Alaska has drawbacks. Name one drawback. Of course, the social life. That's the social life we have here. We make it for ourselves. We have to go out of our way to have a proper social life. It's really like that. Cool people come here from different places, and well, that's how we don't get bored. But things like gigs I'd like to go to or something like that, we just don't have them here. You also have to do everything yourself. We live in the middle of nowhere, so plumbing or anything like that will cost a lot of money. So when something happens, you go and fix everything yourself. You start cleaning it yourself because I think it's more of an advantage everywhere else you have to pay, and you can't. Even if you want to, you can't fix it yourself because you have to hire professionals. Some people like it. Some don't. A broken pipe is more of a disadvantage. In addition, Nika revealed that to get good higher education, you have to leave Alaska and go to other states. The universities in Alaska aren't good unless you study something to do with the North, something scientific, something related to nature, animals, biology. Those fields of study are quite strong here, yes. And if you want to learn IT or coding, go to other states. But Alaska has a lot of animals. Even in the houses of the locals, you can see unusual pets. Isn't it possible that it will open up? Oh, there we go. How cute. Does he bite? Of course. Hedgehogs bite a lot. Oh, wow. This is a rat-eating creature. Rats are sold on a subscription basis, frozen in bags. They're rats, real rats. It's $8 for a frozen rat. People in New York wouldn't understand why you have to pay for rats, because they can go out on the street with a net and have one for free. They're not from New York by any chance. I mean, it's good business. Look at you. Look at you. You see us. And I've got food. We need to open a business, breed rats here. Well, they breed themselves, I guess. First, we have to create a market. We have to popularize pythons. We have to say that they bring luck. Let's do it like this. I'm going to interview you, and you tell me, since we bought this python, the money has been coming in all the time. The business is growing. We started getting triple tips. Now I don't know what to do with so much money. We would never have thought it's because of the python. But then we went away and left it to our neighbors. And then we came back. They had a new car. They renovated their house. How? A golden snake. It brings luck and money. Yes, it turns out the pythons bring good luck. That's it. We need to think of a business plan. Then we can breed rats and sell them. Friends, press thumbs up if you think this rat business plan is great. Of course, you can't organize a business selling rats from Russia. At the moment, there are no business ties with the country. Are there any relations with Russia today? At the moment, there are none. Only in form of, yes, only in terms of military training. From time to time, Russian bombers fly over here, pass by somewhere, and then they get kicked out. Somewhere there, far away, not here, no. Recently, a few weeks ago, a video went viral on TikTok. Well, it was actually Ukrainian, I think. It was about the fact that in a supermarket in Alaska, all the products were Russian. Yes, they are. Well, it's just that we don't check where the products come from. But okay, there are Russian products in America, and they are up here in the north too. I mean, as far as I understand, there are no ties between Russia and Alaska now. If we want to go to Petropavlovsk-Kamchatsky today, we should probably first fly to Dubai. Then from Dubai, no, there's nothing unusual. If there are Russian products here, they're from the same Russian shops that they have in California, or from Brooklyn shops as well. They sell products here too, but these are individual little shops. There won't be any Russian products in big supermarkets. There's no buckwheat, for example, or something like that. If you can only buy it in a few specific shops. I went to one of those shops that sell Russian buckwheat. Which product is the most popular? The most popular product? Buckwheat, of course. Ah, I see it here. Yes, buckwheat is very popular. Look, there's only one left. How much is it? About $10. How much? Yes, $10 for 1.5 kilos of buckwheat. Is it with truffles or what? There's buckwheat with truffles. But this one is the regular kind. Okay, buckwheat. Yes, but you have to understand what comes to us. First, it comes from Europe, goes to the southern states, and then only then it comes to us. So it goes through 3 stops. This is the 3rd stop. That's why the prices seem so high. By the way, this is my favorite Armenian jam. Mine too. That and the green walnut. The green walnut is out of this world. How much is it? This jam is $12.99. $12.99! Armenians will be shocked. Armenians will contact us to find out how they can sell their jam here. Volodka butter from Philadelphia. Look, it's Volodka butter, but it's from Philadelphia. That's cheating. Russians make it all over the place. How does cottage cheese from Lithuania get here? Oh, it's from elsewhere. No, it's a Lithuanian manufacturer made in Lithuania. Does it come frozen or what? Do they freeze cottage cheese? The cottage cheese comes frozen and the bread comes frozen. Oh, another good thing about Alaska is that we don't have taxes. Tell me about it. So in every other state, when you buy something, for example, a bottle of water, it costs $1.59. You go to the cash register, you give them a bottle of water, and they say that it's $1.75, not $1.59. That's because of the taxes. In Alaska, they don't tax. Tell me where you're from. I'm from Moldova, the city of Balti. How did you end up here? We moved here with my husband in 2009. Why Alaska? Why Alaska? Alaska has always been my dream, somewhere where I wanted to go. Well, I've always wanted to travel Alaska. And when we had the opportunity to move to the United States, I chose to choose any state we want. We decided, of course, Alaska. My husband used to come here as a student, and he loved it. Your husband's from Moldova, too? Yes, he's from Moldova. So you moved here and you liked it right away? Yes, of course. Of course. At first was strange, unusual, but I liked it. What did you like here? I really like the people here. In Alaska, we are very friendly. People here are very friendly. It's a very good community, very friendly, very supportive. If you do business, everyone's very supportive. How is it different from Moldova? The opportunities are different. Here, well, like in America, the opportunities are much better. The economy is better. Economy, yes, economy. Thank you. What else? Well, yes, that's it. There are opportunities for us, for the children. How old is your restaurant? The restaurant will be 5 years in October. Do people from post-Soviet Union come here? Are the customers Russian-speaking or American? We are right in the city center, so a lot of tourists come here. There are many tourists from Europe and other states. There are locals who come here all the time. Russians come to Alaska in search of a better life, nature, and freedom. But how do the locals treat newcomers from Russia?
What do you know about Russia?
I know it's a very big country. There's lots of oil.
Like here.
Yeah, a lot like Alaska. And I know it's my guess that people in Russia are tough and hardy, and they don't let weather stop them.
Have you ever been in Russia?
No, I have not. I've never been to that continent.
Do you know? You never been in other continent?
Nope, I've never been off this continent. I've been to Mexico, I've been to Georgia, I've been to other places, Minnesota, but I've never been to that continent.
What do you know about Russia?
It's cold.
And Alaska?
Alaska, it's almost cold. Have a great day, sir.
Have a good day.
What do the locals think about Russia? Quite favorably, actually, but not Russia per se, but the Russian language. It's an interesting subject. I was curious to know that myself, and sometimes people ask me where I'm from. I say, well, I'm from Israel, but originally I'm from Russia. They say, oh, I learned Russian in school. Do they learn Russian in schools here? There are some schools where they teach Russian, yes. There is one in Anchorage and one in Wasilla. And well, the name Wasilla speaks for itself. How many people know Russian? Well, they learned it in school and then forgot it, as often the case. There are a lot of newcomers in the Russian community, though. Yes, there's a Russian community here now, and those who studied it before. There used to be a Russian language program at the university, but it ended a long time ago. Wait, you said newcomers? Are there a lot of Russian immigrants here? As always, there are Ukrainians, Russians. Russians and Ukrainians came here because of the war. There are various aid programs here. I mean, it's hard for us to understand whether they're Russians, Ukrainians, or someone else. Well, we don't get into all that if people don't say themselves, but generally speaking, people here live quite different lives. So you can't say that everybody knows everybody. We know some Russians, but there are people who come to Alaska on their own, so we never get to meet them. The fact that Alaska was part of the Russian Empire a long time ago. Do Americans remember it? Do they know about it? Do they talk about it? Or is it completely forgotten history? It's more like distant history, but people remember it. They know and talk about it, yes. Sometimes it's mentioned in conversation, because Russia and the U.S. are different. For some people, Alaska is still Russia. That is, some Americans do not know that all that Alaska is America. Sometimes Americans ask if they need a visa to go to Alaska. Yes, or what is the currency in Alaska? That's how we live. What's left here from the Russian Empire, from Russian company? Well, you'll see it in Sitka. There's Orthodoxy because all the native Alaskans, the Athabascans, the Ilyats, the people of these villages say they're Orthodox. I don't know if you've seen it, but there are Russian crosses all along the road. Churches, they have prayers in Old Slavic, etc. Our friend Ken knows that Russia has 2 New Year's Eves. Here we have local celebrations of the Old New Year's Eve. Ken understands perfectly why there's the Old New Year's Eve. I'm part of the family, yes, I celebrate that too, of course. Boris told me that there is even a native Alaskan Orthodox cemetery in the village of Ekluntna. There are these houses with crosses on the graves. They are for the souls. Oh wow. There are actually little houses on all the graves. It's crazy, I've never seen anything like that. I mean, look, there are big houses, and there's small ones. These are new graves, and if they don't make a house, they don't have time. They cover it with a blanket. So these are new graves. They don't even have plaques yet. Here, the flowers are fresh, and new graves are covered with a blanket to keep the soul warm. Because while it's still here, it must be warm. They are the Orthodox indigenous people of the Americas. They have a mixture of some local traditions and orthodoxy. When the soul leaves the human body, it's for 40 days, it's still somewhere. And to make it more comfortable, they build a house for it. The soul dwells somewhere for its 40 days, and then it flies away. Is it a local tradition? It's a tradition of the local people. They build a house for the soul, or if they don't have time, they cover it with a blanket. That said, interestingly, there are practically no name plaques, so it's not clear who was buried and when. There are all kinds of houses. Some old ones are already falling apart. It's not even clear when they're built. These ones are from 2020. They have good new crosses, and it's a solid house. Adults have big houses, and babies have small ones. This one's for a baby. The baby has a tiny little house. It looks very unusual. On one side, it's a real Orthodox cemetery. Here you have an Orthodox church. It's the Church of St. Nicholas. The icons are familiar, all of them, and the Virgin Mary and so on. We know all the saints, the crosses. On the other hand, there are these little houses, big and small, for children and adults, made in different ways. It's very strange to me that they don't look after the graves. I mean, if the graves are well looked after, most likely it's new. And if the graves are old, there are no name plaques left. It's not clear who's buried and when. They are rotting and falling apart. Everything is simply made of wood. All these graves are made of wood, just painted, without much protection. And of course, in the local climate, it rots very quickly. It deteriorates. It gets so bad and nobody fixes it. By the way, interestingly, there are inscriptions in Russian. Vera Vladimirovna Kliklova. Apparently, it was a Russian lady. I mean, a woman. A woman, yes, an adult. She has a grave without a house, a normal grave that's well looked after. This is a good example. You can see other traditions, that the grave is tidy. There isn't a house, but the grave is tidy. The people beautifully combine the ancient religion of the Athabascans and Orthodoxy. According to this region, the first world is surrounded by spirits. That is why they need their own house after death. Orthodoxy also requires a cross on the graves. The locals adapted Orthodoxy from Russian missionaries. They came to Alaska 200 years ago and spoke to the natives about their religion. Later, a Russian Orthodox diocese appeared in Alaska. It ran parishes in several states of the United States. In the 18th century, Emperor Paul I signed a decree creating the Russian-American Company. Under it, Russia was granted a monopoly of trade and industry in Alaska. Through this treaty, Russia expanded not only its trade, but also its missionary work. The Russian bishop's house was the beginning of this. Here lived Inokenti Veniamov, the first bishop of Alaska. It was from this house that the Russian Orthodox Church administered all the cathedrals, from California to Siberia and Kamchatka.
In 1799, the Russian-American Company was formed, and they were granted a monopoly on the sea otter pelts, and part of that agreement was they had to help in the spread of the Russian Orthodox Church. So this, unfortunately for the sea otters, was confidence to them. So this is the attendance room, and it would have been a member of the clergy that assisted the bishop. And during the renovation, they discovered all kinds of papers written in Russian underneath the wallpaper, so you can check that out. They found like journals, they found a menu, they found like church documents, and that was used as insulation. The house, it was also built by shipwrights from Finland, and they incorporated sailcloth onto the ceiling. 1840s, Sitka was known as the Paris of the Pacific. It was the political, economic, religious capital of the Russian colony. And in this room, they're just trying to show off that even on the Alaskan front. And as a member of the clergy, the bishop, he would have been considered nobility, and he would have hosted any number of like ship's captains or merchants in this room, and they would have had tea. And this is a samovar tea set. Put charcoal on the top, and it'd be really strong. You'd brew the tea there, and then down below you'd have hot water, and then you could dilute it to your liking. And China was their main trading partner, so tea would have been really important. And the furniture, the settee, the chairs, the mahogany mirrors, they're all original to the house. I'd say the furniture came over like IKEA style, like flat pack, and then was assembled. It's wrong. Everybody thinks it's Nikolaevsk.
Nikolaevsk,
Yeah, so that's Alexander II, the emperor in 1867. Russia, they had just fought in the Crimean War against Great Britain and France, and they needed the money, and they didn't want like Great Britain or Canada to gain Alaska. And the main reason they were here was for the sea otter pelts, and they were really being overhunted. So they ended up selling. And St. Petersburg was the capital at the time, which is like 11 time zones away. And to get to Sitka, you'd have to travel through Siberia and then sail the North Pacific.
Here is an interesting feature. For some reason, the museums here are run by the National Park Service. And since there are rangers working in the national parks, the rangers also organize the tours here as well. It's very unusual, but they know what they're talking about. They show and tell everyone quite accurately and interestingly. So, Russian heritage in Alaska is in good hands. Alaska preserves Orthodox churches built by the Russians. St. Michael's Cathedral was the first Russian Orthodox cathedral in America, but in 1966 it was completely destroyed by fire. Thanks to the local residents, the valuable relics were saved. In the 1970s, the cathedral was restored, and now houses the largest collection of Russian religious artifacts outside Russia. Recommended donation, $5. There are many tourists here. Orthodoxy in Alaskan villages is not a unique phenomenon. For example, the religion came to the villages of Chukotka with the Cossacks and explorers in the 17th century. Since then, 9 Orthodox churches have been built in the territory of Chukotka, and about 700 Chukchi converted to Orthodoxy. Chukotka and Alaska are more often compared to each other, although the regions are very different historically. The history and colonization of Chukotka and Alaska developed in different ways. In Chukotka, there was an influx of population during Soviet times. This was primarily due to the development of mining. Due to labor migration, from 1959 to 1989, the region's population increased by 100,000. However, it then decreased just as fast. Now, instead of 150,000 people, less than 48,000 live in Chukotka. This was largely due to the closure of the city-forming enterprises. As people lost their jobs, they began to move to other regions. Active settlement of Alaska began in the 19th century. During the gold rush, thousands of miners traveled north to get rich. In just 10 years, the population almost doubled, but the main increase came in the second half of the 20th century, when Alaska became a U.S. state, and then they found oil here. Compared to Chukotka, Alaska's population has also grown by almost 3 times in 30 years, except that in Chukotka's population in 1990 was about 150,000. Alaska's was 600,000, and even now it's still going up, not down. Like most of the far north, Alaska has pretty good wages, so those who aren't afraid of the cold came here to work. Speaking of cold, Alaska was also luckier with the weather than in Chukotka. The region's harsh Arctic climate is almost isolating for Chukotka. Not many people are willing to move to a place where it's between minus 15 degrees Celsius and minus 39 degrees Celsius in January, even if they are offered a lot of money. In Alaska, things are not so extreme. Here in January, it's from minus 1 to minus 15 degrees Celsius. And in the big cities in southern Alaska, like Anchorage, things are even better. Here in the winter, the temperature rarely drops below minus 10. And in the summer, it's almost 20. So it's a great climate, and it's a great place to live. It's beautiful, it's tasty, and it has all kinds of bonuses in the form of various payments. No taxes. It's like a fairy tale. The difference is striking. Given that Chukotka is geographically very close to Alaska, the regions are separated by the Bering Strait, which is only about 82 kilometers wide. By comparison, the distance from Moscow to St. Petersburg is 700 kilometers. During the Great Patriotic War, American planes entered the USSR through this strait. I came to Fairbanks to see a monument of the Alaskan Siberia air route. By today's standards, it's an amazing monument here in Fairbanks. It depicts American and Soviet pilots together. It is the only monument in the world dedicated to the Lend-Lease. It's the program that essentially helped end World War II. It was through Fairbanks that the United States transported aid to the Allies. More than 8,000 military aircraft and munitions arrived to the local airfield. From here, Soviet pilots flew across the Bering Strait, first to Siberia, and then to the front. Due to severe weather conditions, not all the planes reached their final destination. According to writer Alexander Dolitsky, 133 aircraft were lost in North America and 44 in Siberia. The memorial was unveiled in 2006. Interestingly, it was the Russian flag was installed in a place of the Soviet flag. And now there is only the flag of the United States, Alaska, and the third flagpole where the Russian flag used to be is now empty. But the monument is still here. There is nothing wrong with it. During the Cold War, as today, there wasn't even talk of any aid. Despite Alaska's proximity to Chukotka, during the Cold War, air travel between the two regions was impossible. Flights had to be made via Moscow. In other words, instead of 1,500 kilometers, people had to travel 22,000 kilometers. But in 1988, with perestroika, when relations began to improve, Alaskan Airlines flew across the Bering Strait. It was a success of citizen diplomacy.
It's the North Pole, okay? All right, and here is Alaska, and then here is Chukotka. Mm-hmm. So, since the Cold War, we called it an ice wall. Ice curtain. Ice curtain. You know, we never thought of going over that. It's just what we didn't hear anything, we didn't know anything. And then slowly, after Gorbachev and Reagan, and then Cox, we started reaching out, and they started reaching out, and then we were able to do a friendship flight in 1988, okay? And that was just a charter plane, you know, from Nome over to Providence and back again. And at the time, I worked for an airline, not Alaska Airlines, Alaska Airlines did the flight, but we did a flight the day before to bring all of the cameras and journalists and everything there. So when that plane came, they could film it arriving, okay? So then things started melting. And we started, our governor at the time was reaching out to this region to have contacts again and encourage exchanges. And so then Alaska Airlines started a plane route from Anchorage over to Kamchatka and then to Vladivostok. And then Aeroflot came in and they were doing that, okay? There was Air Russia that was also flying, Magadan Air was flying that. So things started happening a lot. We're having lots of people going across and flights and everything like that.
We did regular scheduled charter flights between Anchorage and Petropavlovsk-Kamchatsky, and then on to Yuzhno-Sakhalinsk. When they were developing the oil, there were a number of joint ventures between U.S. oil companies and Russian oil companies there. And so it was quite an exciting time. And
very exciting.
A friendship flight wouldn't hurt today. The Cold War has been replaced by the war in Ukraine. All hopes of possible cooperation between Russia and Alaska have disappeared. Alaskan lawmakers are determined to do more than completely cut off trade with Russia. They want to become its direct competitor in the export of natural resources. According to the local director of the World Trade Center, they have gold, seafood, coal, and minerals. So Alaska has everything Russia has to offer the world.
In the middle of that was in that as well, but then it's because of the Ukraine that we couldn't fly in there. We noticed a difference when the invasion of Crimea happened, and my colleagues were worried that we won't be able to have these exchanges anymore, but we all agreed that we would not talk about politics at all, and so we were still able to do some joint conferences back and forth, okay? But then with the Ukraine, and he didn't allow any U.S. airline to fly over there.
The recent Russian-Chinese maneuvers have also made Alaskans nervous. In early August, their ships were patrolling Alaskan waters. Although the exercise took place in international waters and posed no threat, the Americans remained somewhat tense and were even prepared to defend themselves. Fortunately, they did not have to do so. Despite the tense relationship, a few brave people tried to enter America, and not with a green card, but illegally, on a boat. Last October, 2 Russians swam across the Bering Strait to apply for refugee status in the United States. They decided to take the risk, fearing they would be mobilized. But their journey was successful, and they are now in the U.S. defending their right to seek asylum here. The Americans, for their part, are in no hurry to go to Russia. According to Tandy Wallach, people in the U.S. are wary of traveling to Russia. Moreover, the U.S. Embassy has repeatedly advised its citizens to leave Russia as soon as possible.
Fearful, they got fearful of what's going on over there, and so they didn't really want to go. So, and our science exchanges, it all dropped off because of that. So
if people feel insecure, they're not going to travel. And I think sometime in the future when tensions ease, then I think there'll be a future again for tourism.
Air service between countries isn't only important for trade. That is, the indigenous peoples of Alaska and Chukotka have family ties. When flights were still operating, Tandy Wallach was actively involved in the search for relatives from both continents. When the countries cut off air traffic, families were cut off from each other.
I mean, that was part of my project, was to reunite the native people from Alaska with their relatives over in Chukotka. And since I travel all in these remote areas and I've been traveling over there, I knew that, the native people were on both sides. And so National Park Service awarded a grant for me to take an elder over to Russia, take them up by whaleboat all up and down in here and see if we can find relatives and then bring them over. And we did. One of the things that happened during this time was that we were able to negotiate a visa-free zone for natives from Chukotka and natives from Alaska to be able to fly back and forth without a visa. So, and that was great because the ice wall kept those folks from their families. And then when these exchanges started happening, more and more Native people were able to go and visit their relatives, and they would come over. And this is a handwritten family tree. And I've been adding to it. And I took this over to Russia with me too, so I could add the people to the family tree, because everybody's related. They're all related over there. So this is a great piece of education that we're expanding on. So when you ask, are there relatives who are on both sides looking for each other? Absolutely, absolutely there are. So we did this as a grant, and we brought some folks from Wayland, you know where Wayland is?
Yes.
Yeah. To Little Diomede to have a reunion. And it was good. You know, a lot of people ask me, oh, how are you going to find relatives over there? And I said, I know those villages, I know it. And she was born on Little Diomede, and they were born in Chukotka. And this is a picture. The first afternoon we arrived in Providenia, they greeted us. And I'm related to you. We showed them this, that you're related here, and it was just magical.
So it turns out the Americans are more concerned about the people of Chukotka than the Russian government. The Wallach family really appreciates Russian culture. They have a samovar at home, and the kitchen is decorated with gazelle, or yeltskin.
This was a wedding present for my grandparents.
But it sounds Russian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's Russian? Edison?
It's not Russian. But you have
Russian or Polish. And this was, it was a modern one. It ran on kerosene.
And all the Russian books and all these.
This is Russian.
Yeah.
The lace is Russian.
Yes,
It's a special Russian.
Yes.
Yakuty.
Yakuty.
I mean, just to give you an idea that, you know, we feel deeply for the Russian people. We have dear friends over there, so, yeah.
Oh, Yeltsin and Gorbachev. So that is how Alaskan's history is intertwined with Russia's. Russian culture is still alive here. The Russian language is taught in schools, and old believers live in villages with Russian names. Russian deputies and ministers talk about it from time to time, and they immediately propose to return the territory to Russia. Those who live here hope that this will never happen. Alaska is prospering, developing, and attracting people from all over the world, including Russians. If you like this video, don't forget to like it, write a comment, and subscribe to my channel. Share this video on Reddit and send the link with your friends via WhatsApp.